All right, stuff is starting to happen. Kyle, Luke, McKeon and I just were on the south end of the lake drilling out some stuff using cartography to look at some basin areas, and we got a call that our buddies up north were on a mega load, and I'd say that right there is a mega load. We got Humminbird mega live down the hole right now. We're looking out 50 feet laterally all the way around us, and we can see here roughly between 20 to 40 feet, that's a large school of fish. And if I follow my finger over here, we see that those fish are anywhere between 14 to 18 feet. So the name of the game here is oftentimes we'll have just one guy lock up on live imaging, and I have an arrow right on top of this unit. So as I spin this around, I look at that screen and we can call distance and direction. Pretty much straight out there right now, 30 foot, there's a bunch of fish and those guys are catching. Once we stop catching, what we do is just continue to rotate mega live around. Look at that, we got fish there too. So what we're seeing is there's a large amount of water around us where there's a lot of fish. But as I keep spinning that, look at no fish, no fish, no fish, no fish. And you can make a full 360-degree rotation from one hole, and at a 50-foot range, I'm covering 100 feet from one single hole. That's extreme efficiency on ice. And there we go. There's some fish coming into frame right there, 40 feet out. Let's keep spinning. There's a couple fish there. Ooh, we got a school of fish. We got fish there. 2 o'clock noon is the biggest school. Look at that. That is a mega load. Hey Ben, hop in this hole right here, bud. There's 2 holes. And there's a mega school out 20 to 30 feet. And here's the other thing, guys, when we're able to have that y-axis, and I love 360, this would work great here, but with live right now, I'm able to see how far fish are off the bottom. And when you have high riders like that, those are often pretty active fish that are feeding. So from 10 foot all the way down to the bottom here. But right now, those guys are in a pretty good zone. You can see Kyle there. Look at Kyle hooked up. Sweet. Big crop. I'm kind of functioning as the forward observer, the spotter today, kind of like a hunting scenario. If you were out in the mountains and you had a person with the binoculars and then you have another person, you know, on the rifle or whatever. That's what I'm doing. I'm just doing it with live imaging on ice. This is Humminbird Mega Live. There's an arrow on the top of this shaft here, and I have a Mega Live transducer below, and right now I'm looking out that way, but you'll see that all the guys are right here for a very good reason. Let's go ahead and spin this arrow so the transducer's looking toward them, and let's see what develops on that screen. Look at that right there. Kyle just caught a real nice crappie, and we can see clearly that there's several fish out 30 feet. So how this technology works is, here's my y-axis, that's giving me depth, and then across the top, that's giving me distance out. So I can bring my finger over and I can hit 30 and I can see that's the leading edge of the school. And then that school of fish extends out to 40 feet, and then bring my finger over here and say, hey, they're 16 feet down. When we stop catching, that's when we'll make moves with live imaging. We'll reacquire the school, and then the anglers will reposition based on what we're seeing. Big bluegill, look at that. This is a sweet school of fish. We got a mix of crappie, bluegill, and walleye. Classic multi-species deal, and we're having a lot of fun. All right, guys, to acquaint you with distance and direction, that's a key benefit of either Mega Live Imaging or Mega 360. Both are going to allow you to drill one hole and look and cover a big area and see if there's fish down there or structure or cover. So one hole allows us to cover a big area, 100-foot diameter area in the case of my current range setting. So what we do with that information is scan around and then tell guys what hole to go hop into or where to drill a hole to land on those fish. One of the keys with live imaging is when you see the fish, and assuming we didn't have a hole over there, you'd want to send an angler out in that direction, roughly at my 12 o'clock, 30, 35 feet, so you actually see that signature or the splash of the ice auger. And that's a good way over time to learn distance. So, hey, yep, perfect, drill there. You'll start to get a good feel for your distance, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 feet, what that looks like visually. And then once you see that mark of the auger, you know, drop down right on top of it. But these guys have already done the work and drilled the hole, so Kyle is about right there now. So a cool thing when you get on a real productive spot like this, and these fish are nomadic, they might be covering a pretty big area, but oftentimes they're relating to a manageable area. It might be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 acres. So you get on a really good wad of fish like this. The nice thing with having an LCD with GPS is the ability to, drop a waypoint on those fish. I'm gonna change my view here, pull up mapping, and we have Lake Master loaded in the SD slot here. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit, and we'll just hit the mark button, and I just dropped a waypoint. So you can see from the contours, we're right in this little depression here. There's a 14-foot high spot. These guys are set up in the basin, and these fish are relating to this basin. So pretty nice to be able to drop a GPS. And the other thing I'll do to try to understand why they're in an area is paint the contour lines a little bit. In the winter time, in the Great Lakes states, it's often basins where panfish are, but it's not always easy in a sea of, similar color to identify that basin. So I'll tweak a few settings to my map here. So right now I have 19 to 20 feet highlighted. And what Lake Master does then is it just paints in the contour from 18 down to 20 feet. So that kind of gives me a sense as to, are these fish relating to a certain depth? And now I can go run that other spots of similar depth around the lake. So we just made a mini move. I pulled out of that hole. I was scanning over here and these guys weren't on fish anymore. And I hadn't seen any fish to the north of us. So I made a decision to just get on the opposite side of them. And then look at that school just shifted a little bit to what is our south. And as I spin this live transducer, I'm just seeing that there's a lot of life on screen. Look at that. Luke's hooked up, so doesn't lie. That's calling the shot, I'm not fishing right now. I could be fishing, but it's pretty cool just with a group of people like this to stay on the fish. Yeah, Kyle, I'd say that far hole behind Luke, seems like there's quite a few fish at the end of my range. Definitely on the further extent of my current range from 30 to 50 feet right now. So those guys repositioned in a pretty good area. They're gonna run into them.
So like Ryan said, we made a little adjustment here. Fish kind of dissipated. We had good half an hour action. Here's another one. There we go. Hooked up again. This one's smaller. Definitely smaller. That's a baby. But we had that school of fish that we were on for quite some time. It kind of started to disappear and moved to another hole, probably 60 yards or so. Got into this new area and we're able to direct us in the right direction and first drop into this hole. I mean, if you look here on the screen too, we're in almost 19 feet. This whole band here is pure fish. And I'm running a zoom over here on the right side of my 2D sonar. We got 4x zoom focused on the bottom of the water column. Really what that allows me to do, get a little more detailed look at each individual mark in the school. And a lot of times after I catch one, we get down 3 feet above these fish and they just come screaming up. You can see these. That's a great thing about 2D sonar too. You can actually see the history. You can see those fish started to move up and kind of come up to the bait. A couple different ways we've been catching them. Either they'll come screaming up to you, or if there's a big school kind of 4 feet from the bottom, if they're not coming up and grabbing it, we'll actually drop right into that school and then slowly rise up. And a lot of times that gets them fired up and they'll come up and hammer it. So the schools seem to disappear now. We'll see what Ryan's over here, what he's looking at, and see where they move to. There we go, hooked up. Oh, look at that band of fish. There's quite a few down there. This one feels okay. Oh, there we go, nice fighting. Decent crappie. We lost that school of big ones. We were catching a bunch of these. That's a good one. And we started to get a bunch of smaller fish. Relocated a little bit, got back on the better quality fish. Decent one. Get him back, get back down there. It disappeared, but we got a few other guys around here and got the live set up and see if we can track him down again.